Today we're going to be reviewing the Gold Scalper Pro MT5. This video is sponsored by our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Take your trading to the next level through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout. Click the link in the description to download the EA completely for free. So this is a very famous bot. This developer here, Mr. Lechazar, is a very famous developer, and honestly I've heard largely just good things about him. And he makes bots, most of which that I think his most famous one is the Forex Gold Investor. And these are tried and tested bots, and he continuously tries to make them better. So they have sometimes in the past blown up once and twice, but I think he does always take feedback and try to improve it. And at least the bots, from what I've seen, have always been honest and showing that he does take care. So always a very good sign. What we can see here is that this particular bot is supposedly exploited and using smart money. So I'm not so sure if he means smart money concept specifically, but specifically he's mentioning a certain type of trading pattern here, where he's looking for an entry following an impulse and a correction. So that's a very tried and tested, more price action based strategy, and it's good that he's putting in place and he's explaining that there's a real strategy behind it. He's also saying that this bot or this system has a reasonable stop loss, so you will hit the stop loss. And what I quite liked is, hey, please don't leave bad reviews after it hits a stop loss, because the holy grail does not exist in trading. As a fellow developer, I feel this pain where it's like, guys, if you test something for a week, that's completely statistically insignificant. It can do really well, it can do rather poorly. What matters is that your risk reward is good, and that over 100 trades, 200 trades, everything is very solid. Whereas many developers will sell you either a grid martingale or like some sort of enormous stop loss system, because those have negative skew. So those typically will never lose until they go boom, and those are much easier to sell. And honest developers will typically sell you a bot that will hit the stop loss, but when they win, you should make more than when you lose. And he's trying to explain that here, so that's a very good sign. He's also saying that this does not, it is hard coded, so it does not really matter which time frame it's run on specifically. And then he's saying that your broker's spreads need to be very low for this to work. One thing to note is there is no signal here, so I'm not so sure how it's been performing lately. I know it's been around for a while, since 2018, and the fact that people are still buying it is definitely a good sign. I know he has very generous refund policies, etc., so I think he does stand behind his systems. So overall, looks pretty solid so far. Price action based, probably a bit of smart money, a bit of Wyckoff. Developer has a good reputation, so all is pretty solid there. I actually went to go run a back test here. I initially ran a short one where it wasn't doing super well in the recent year, but prior to that, it had many years of doing quite solidly. What I want you guys to look at is this type of equity curve. We have these long streaks of winners and then these big kind of pops down. That is pretty indicative of a scalping style system, because it will have an inverted risk reward. So that's to be expected with any sort of scalper, whereas with a high risk reward system, usually you'll have more of these jumps and then these little trickles down and then these jumps and these trickles down. I can actually show you one, for instance, with one of our systems here actually, and you can see on 2 seconds. One of our bots, for instance, this is a Longbow Fund Manager signal, and you're going to have these little periods down and then these huge shoots up. Periods down, huge shoots up. So that's the kind of the difference with what you would see with more of a high risk reward system, where you have like these little losing periods and these giant winning ups. Whereas when you have a scalper, you have these long winning periods and then these kind of drops down. And it just comes down to how you set up the risk reward. So overall, it has not been doing as well lately. I can show you a more recent back test as well, just to give you an idea of how it's been performing the previous year. But clearly, if we kind of look at the system here, it's very much based on indicators. So we have moving averages as a filter, likely as a trend filter. We have the Williams %R, I believe, as the oscillator, which is likely acting as the trigger. So a very tried and tested technical strategy. He's looking to essentially buy a pullback with the prevailing trend. So what he's saying online is matching what he's doing here. We're going only long above the MA, we're going only short below the EMA, and we're also, essentially the trigger is going to be something with this oscillator down here. He's also using tick volume, likely as an additional confluence or as an additional filter. So not reinventing the wheel, tried and tested technical analysis strategy. Every position has a stop loss and a take profit. It is a scalper, so we are seeing an inverted risk reward. One thing to note is it has not been doing great recently. It did do very well for many years, but recently it might need a bit of a re-optimization. So what this shows is this developer knows what he's doing, he's honest, he's providing good systems. This particular one might not be the world's greatest one to get right now. You probably, kind of knowing what he's capable of producing, want to check out some of his other methods, just because you might want to work with the gentleman, with his company, but at the same time, this one looks a little bit neglected, just because it hasn't been doing too well for the past few months or so. It could be a normal pullback, but also because gold has been acting so crazy recently, you do need to be mindful of that when developing systems. We can go and try and see a few trades here recently. They are indeed doing well, but perhaps it has not adapted super well to the recent volatility. This goes to show that when you're running more of a scalper or technical analysis, like pure technical strategy, you do need to be a bit more mindful of making sure that it matches the current market environment. Because specifically if you're doing more swing trading, if you're doing more fundamental trading, you can oftentimes set and forget. But if you're using these tight take profits and stop losses, they need to be adapted to match the market volatility. I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. So honest system, good developer, the bot needs a bit of updating. That would be my view. So I might not buy this one now, but go look at the rest of his lineup. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.